Hey everyone, welcome to Out as a New Win, You Have a Purpose podcast. This is Johnny G, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing Barbara Nicholson-Brown.
You know, when you wake up out of a blackout and you're sitting in a closet in your own bedroom by yourself with a bottle and a wine opener, you might have a problem.
Potentially, right?
And you wake up and you look around to see who's there, but nobody's there because I was alone. And I would be like, oh my God. But it didn't stop me. When people called and said, you know what you did last night, that kind of stuff, it's all very shaming. Or I took it shaming. I just couldn't stop. An addict, an alcoholic like me can't stop without help. I am powerless over that. I have no control. I can't drink like my sister who can have a half a glass of wine, not even finish it, and she's fine. I have a craving.
Right.
And it's a disease of the body, mind, and spirit, I believe. And I had really no intentions of getting sober. I had no intentions for anything. Like, I had no goals. I had nothing. I had a boyfriend here and a boyfriend there, and they would supply me with Coke or whatever, and so I thought I was in a relationship. They were all sick.
Right.
And I was as sick as they were, or sicker. I had a lot of enablers. And, I wasn't planning on getting sober, but things got spiritually and not physically as much as emotionally horrible, where one of my girlfriends confronted me in April of 1990, and she said, you got to get out of this city. You're going to die. Call your parents. Tell them you want to move to Arizona and start your life over. And I did. I was like, oh, and I called them, and they were like, what? We don't want you here. You're our daughter, and we love you. We don't want you here. And I begged and pleaded, please, I promise, please, I have to get out of here. I'm going to die here. So they said, all right, well, we're going to let you come out and let us know when it's going to be, but we're only giving you a certain amount of time. And so I had made plans to move out in August of 90. In the meantime, I was selling stuff and shipping some stuff out, filling my parents' garage with crap they didn't need. And my dad was sick and with MS and other things, and my mom was caregiving. And they were in their years where they should be having their life together, not taking care of a 38-year-old alcoholic daughter. And my mom had been clean since, 1979 maybe. So, but they're my parents and they love me.
Right.
So I was planning on drinking all the way up to the day before I was going to get on a plane out here. Because then I thought, well, then you don't have to drink. Thinking, what, there's no alcohol in Arizona? And I hit my bottom on June 17th. And I didn't plan it. It was all a God deal.
Mm-hmm.
And it was real dark. And I drank a couple bottles of wine. I think it was on the 15th of June. I got on a subway. I was already out of my mind. To meet a friend, to get Coke. Because I thought, well, that would sober me up. And I met him, and I don't even know how I got off on the wrong stop. And then I was trying to go to friends' houses, and they were all slamming the door in my face. And then there was a blur. I don't know if I just wandered around the city. I don't know. And then I went back to the guy that sold me the Coke. because he used to be my boyfriend. And I was crying, and I was always crying. I don't know what to do. And he said, you're out of here. He said, you're going home. So he kind of grabbed me by the collar, took me out on 9th Avenue and 23rd Street. I still remember it, which is now a nice Chelsea area, but it wasn't then. He called a cab over, and he said, take her to. And he gave my address, and he gave the guy money, and he just really threw me in. And the guy took me home. He didn't kill me. He didn't throw me in the East River or the Hudson River on the way back, because I don't know what I was doing in the back of the cab. I could have been screaming at him. I don't know. And I somehow got my apartment and called my mom in this drunken stupor, crying, screaming, and she's like, this is coming to my house in 2 months. And then I passed out, and the next day and it's also real, I woke up with the comforter over my head, and I peeked out looking around to see if anybody was there with, like, the net,
Sure.
to take me away. And the phone was ringing, and I wouldn't answer it, and I was afraid whoever they were going to come get me and put me in a straitjacket or so. I don't know. And hours later, the phone rang one more time, and I thought, oh, this is cool. It's probably somebody wants to go out. So I had gotten over all this anxiety of,
Paranoia.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was my sister. And I said, hello, and she said, shut up.
Because it'd probably been some time since you had spoken to her.
Well, she heard from my parents. And she just said, shut up. And she screamed it. And I don't know her exact words, but if I didn't get help, stop right then and there, they were all done. They didn't want me out there. And she said something like, you decide, and slammed the phone down. I didn't have a chance to say a word. Slammed the phone down so hard, I still can hear it. And I just sat there, and here's where God comes in. I immediately picked up my phone and dialed one of my friends, Janice, who is no longer here. And her husband answered, and I said, Steve, I'm an alcoholic. I need help. And that was the first time it ever came out of my mouth. And then I was like, oh, my God, what did I do?
I just admitted something.
And he said, Janice will be at your apartment within the half an hour, because she was in recovery. And so was he. And she came, and she just came in and sat with me, and she said, you're going to take a nap now, go to bed, I'm going to stay all night, and tomorrow we're going to go take a walk. And so she stayed, and the next morning it was Father's Day. Very appropriate in a way. And, I had a hangover, and I was full of fear, guilt, shame, remorse, the usual. My head was down. I looked terrible. And she said, let's take a walk. It was a beautiful Sunday. And we started walking. And we ended up at the Jacob Javits Convention Center. And they just happened to have I don't know how many years it was, anniversary for AA. And I don't know how many people were there. 10,000, 20,000, I don't know. I mean, to me it was 1 million.
Right.
But we walked through these doors, and there's all these people laughing and camaraderie and smiling, and all these chairs lined up, and it was this big hall, and I was like, whoa, what is this? And I was shaking. But when she opened, when we opened the door, I thought everybody was going to go, oh,
Sure.
You're here. And that was my first exposure.
But they didn't do that, though.
No, they didn't. And it was...
They brought you into their family.
But they said, anybody here, knew or and she pushed me out of my chair, and I'm like, oh no, they're all gonna know, and I didn't know any of these people,
Right.
because it was all about me. See, it was all about me. The whole place was gonna go, oh, you, but that was my step in, and I'm proud to say I've never stepped out.
That's awesome.
So then I did come out here in August. And as soon as I got to my mom's house, my dad's house, my mom had like a meeting list booked for me in my room. And my dad's, here come the rules again. You got to get a job. You got to buy a car. And you got 90 days. What was a car? Oh, an apartment. And I'm like, what? I had barely any money. And I said, okay, so I bought my first, I'll call it an alcoholic car out here. It was, I don't know how old, like a 78 something with no AC and a cracked windshield, but that's what I could afford.
Right.
And I bought it. It was like $400. I got an apartment in Phoenix, not a bad place. A little was a one bedroom. And I also got a job up in Scottsdale Air Park working for a computer magazine.
Hmm.
And I started going to 12-step meetings and got a sponsor, and I didn't fight anybody. A lot of times people fight. I didn't fight.
Do you think that you were just at that point in your life, like finally, truly just wanting to give in and just make a change?
What are my options?
Right.
I didn't have any. You're going to live, you want to die. I came to the realization like the knight in shining armor wasn't going to, be galloping down any boulevard to save my life.
Right.
Because I kind of grew up with that Cinderella BS.
Sure.
And I know the choices I made were wrong, and I know I hurt a lot of people, and I started from square one. I had to take that thorough look at what I did, my part, not you, not New York, not Chicago, not my brother, not my sister, not my parents, or somebody that broke my heart. It's not their fault.
And even though that they were quite frustrated with you, they were still there. They loved you, and they still wanted you to get recovery.
Even though nobody said that, because at the time, we have come so far since I got sober about our openness about talking about this disease, whether it be alcohol or drugs or gambling or sex or whatever it is. When I got into the rooms of recovery, it was pretty like anonymous. I am far from anonymous about it. I don't care. It's my story.
Right.
If I don't share it to people, with people outside of where I go get my medicine, which is kind of what my meetings are for me, then nobody's going to know it works.
Sure.
And there's a lot of pushback still, I think, about it, especially in the group I'm in, but I don't care. If I don't talk to you about it, and we don't talk about it here, there's somebody out there that's going, I wonder if I'm an addict, or I wonder if I'm an alcoholic, or how come I can't stop drinking? Why am I lying so much? Why is my life this mess? And it's a hard look in the mirror when you have to take an inventory about yourself and then share it with another individual. But it's a sense of relief that I know I'm not the only one that's done this. It's not the worst story in the world. It's not the best story in the world. It's just one other person, woman in recovery, who wants to help other people.
Right.
And then, you know, I think in the beginning of my sobriety, I expected a lot of kudos and things like parades and stuff in my honor. I did, especially when I got one
Look
year.
what I've done.
Look what I've done. I haven't
Uh-huh.
had a drink in a year. There should be some kind of big celebration somewhere. And that's all ego.
Sure.
And, you know, it's a daily, every day to this day. If I don't read a meditation book or say thank you or something, I'm screwed up. I heard a long time ago, this is a real bad neighborhood. Don't go there alone.
Wow, I like that.
And it's true. Because I get in there and it's
Sure.
like, the world's going to blow up. It's the end of this. It's that. And da, 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 da,
We
da.
all have those days.
It's like this negative committee that just. And my mom used to say, she goes, yeah, it's like a bunch of cops walking around. And I was like, yeah, a bunch of policemen or judges. And, you know, unless I talk to another person that's in recovery and share, you know what, I'm messed up today. Today isn't good. I met with a friend yesterday. Okay, I'm 32 years sober, and I'm freaking out about going to a dentist about a tooth extraction. Because the worst is going to happen. It's always the worst.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely.
But we talk about it more. It's more open. Mainstream media still focuses on the negatives, you know. We need to know about the fentanyl coming over the border. We need to talk to kids about it. We need to keep the awareness alive that nobody is immune. No one. In my mind,
So
an
true.
alcoholic was living under a bridge in a trench coat with a brown paper bag and a bottle of whatever.
Sure.
You know, doesn't matter if you have fancy clothes or you don't. Doesn't matter if you have a car with a cracked windshield or you don't. Doesn't matter.
So true.
You know, it doesn't discriminate. We know that. It doesn't pick out people that the universe doesn't like and say, all right, you're going to get this.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't work that way.
No. So, you know, my life, I was diligent, very diligent about my doing what I was told to do and suggested, and little by little my life, you know, got better and better. And I met the love of my life, and he was in recovery as well. And we got married at I was 5 years sober. I was supposed to make big decisions, you know, in the beginning. And today would have been our 28th anniversary, but he passed away 13 years ago. So it's a little kind of a weird day for me, but it's kind of
It's an important day for you.
beautiful to celebrate that day, but share my story of recovery, because I do now, if I hold this up, he started this addiction recovery newspaper in 1991, and Together AZ, and it's still going. And it's a resource for the community. It's a resource for good information. It's not, I'm not counting car crashes, and I'm not counting DUIs. It's done. You know, it's not statistical. It's
Right.
not clinical. It's for the average person that might want to learn about
Right.
ways to find a resource or read a positive, impactful story, a success story, because there are a lot of them. And in this issue, The Heart and Soul of Recovery, I do feature Brandon Lee, who created the Art of Our Soul program, and he is just doing some tremendous things through art
Right.
to help people heal from their trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing amazing things.
He's an amazing human.
He is.
Absolutely.
He's got a heart of gold.
He does.
And it's all about giving back.
Right.
It's about realizing that the more of us that get together and just know, like, we're not alone.
Right.
I had a lot of traumatic events, and Brandon emphasizes the trauma a lot, which I didn't bring up today, but, I've had my share of pretty serious traumatic things that didn't help.
Right.
Abusive, and I was raped, and, it was many, many, many years ago, but that doesn't always just go away.
It will never go away. It's part of who you are.
So, I've done therapy. I've after my husband passed away, I kind of, obviously had a meltdown. I didn't pick up a drink or a drug, and I just kind of was in a lot of panic and anxiety and fear about shock, everything that goes on. And then I finally did reach out for help for that, and I did go on antidepressants for a while, and I had heard, don't take medication, you can't this, you can't that, and it's like, you can't listen to everybody.
Right. You have to do you.
I couldn't, I almost got to the point where I couldn't leave the house. It was maybe when the shock wore off. And I saw a specialist that was an addiction specialist. And I said, don't put me on any, you can't put me on this. And he said, who's the doctor? Are you the doctor? I was like, no.
And you not going to a past that was very comfortable, right? The drugs and the alcohol after a traumatic event. That's a huge success.
It was. I don't look at it that way. I never thought it didn't, I'm blessed. I didn't crave that. Like, here's my escape now.
Right. And you could have easily gone down that path.
I didn't choose to do that. And when Bill died, he went through everything he went through health-wise. He didn't drink, and he died sober, And, you have to get through life. Drinking never helped me in any situation I was in. Certainly wasn't going to help me after he passed away.
Right.
It was, it's a long, the grief and all that is a long journey. It sucks. It's a wave. You don't know what's coming next.
Right.
At least for me. There were days I couldn't leave the house. There were days I felt uncomfortable behind the wheel of my car. There were days I was shaken.
Sure.
And then it would be like, what's happening here? Is this real?
Right.
Like, why? And then I got the why me. How come it happened? Why did it happen to him? He was such a good guy. Da, 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 da. So I honor him now with the Bill Brown Memorial Golf Tournament every September.
Yes, you do.
And we raise awareness. We celebrate his legacy of sobriety because he was pretty well known in the world here. And the proceeds go to Arizona Women's Recovery Center.
Mm-hmm.
And he just always believed in helping moms and babies and kids grow up in a healthy environment, and that's what they get at Arizona Women's.
Thank you for being a part of Out as a New In podcast. Please join us next week as we continue to hear Barbara Brown's amazing personal story.